Welcome to the podcast with Kylie Nichols. I made the unlikely transition from stay-at-home mom to CEO of a multi-million-dollar leading fashion brand. At Nickel & Suede, we empower the everyday woman to step into her story more boldly, one life-changing accessory at a time. The goal of this podcast is to inspire you through both my story and the stories of other powerhouse women to take that first step towards living the best version of your life. So grab a notebook, grab a pen, and get ready to get started with Kylie Nichols. Hey everybody, happy Friday. I am excited to be back here with you today. Happy December. We made it to the last month of the year and I'm still podcasting. So I'm pretty proud of myself, which leads me into today's topic, which is all about being consistent and doing the little things and just staying disciplined and consistent. And I'm talking about this today because really that was my New Year's resolution for 2020. At the beginning of the year, I really wanted to set out my intentions for the year, and it felt like the thing that was holding me back or why I wasn't making progress in a lot of ways is just because of all the little important things that you need to do daily or weekly that are just really hard to stay consistent with. And so I felt like, okay, if I can be consistent on the small things like exercising, eating healthy, studying my scripture, those are the things that are going to help me be proud of myself and really progress as a person, not to mention just feel better and be able to work better and function as a human. So really good idea. Been so hard to implement. It's been obviously a unique year, a lot of different scenarios that are atypical, but I still feel like despite, the pandemic or despite different changes at work, I should still be able to figure out how to get a workout in every day, or I should be able to still be able to make healthier eating choices. Those little things would help with all of anything troubling or unexpected. That's the baseline stuff that keeps you going and feeling good. So, it's been a challenge for me to really take on this New Year's resolution. And, it surprises me because I actually love to get things done. I love being successful. I'm highly competitive. That's one of my 5 strengths. And growing up, in high school and in college, I was extremely motivated and I was really high achieving. And a lot of that was because of these things I'm talking about, consistent exercise and all of these things. And so it's kind of been a mystery to me this year. But then as I look back, I'm like, it's been more than this year, probably 5 or 10 years. Why can I not stick with something? Why am I not motivated anymore like I used to be? I know that it makes a difference. I look back on those periods of my life and I'm really proud of them. And I know that okay, that's what I want to do again. So what's in my way? And so I wanted to share what I've learned about myself as to why. And so you'll bear with me for kind of a long story or history, but hopefully as learning about me, maybe you'll learn something about yourself or, I'll find a way for this to apply. So like I said, I was really disciplined in junior high and high school and in college. I was really motivated growing up to pay for what I needed. We didn't have a lot of extra spending money, and so I needed to pay for any extras I wanted. And if I wanted to go to college, I had to pay for it myself. I was motivated to be thin, to look my best. Like I said, really competitive, to get good grades. So I ran track and cross country. I wasn't the best at them. And if you know me at all from this podcast, you know that I previously did not stick with things I'm not good at. So didn't stick with those. But even after I stopped being competitive in those, I still kept running on my own. And part of that was just the need to be the best or to be my best self. I had this really strong perfection complex, I guess you could say. So I'm in high school. I would get up at 4:30 in the morning to run. I would run about 3 miles. I had the same route that I would run from my house to Cody's gas station and back, rain or shine or snow or winter. And I did not have good gear back then. So I remember just freezing snot, just really, really cold mornings. And I would do it anyways. I didn't ever drink caffeine back then. And so those mornings were really hard to get up, but I still did it. And then I would have a seminary church class at 6 o'clock in the morning at our church building before school. So I would go to that, try to have perfect attendance. Then I would have school from 7:30 or 8, till the end of the day. I always had a part-time job. So then I would go to work at the ballet studio and I was a receptionist there. And sometimes I could do my homework, but basically I'd get done at 8 or 8:30, go home, do homework until 10 or 11 at night, and then wake up and do it again the next day. I was very tired in high school. I had a lot of migraines. Like every Friday I'd get a migraine because I was just so run down. I was able, though, to pay for my car, to save money. I got good grades. I had a 4.0, and that was one of my goals too. And so I kept a 4.0 all through high school. And I was really proud of that. And I knew I needed it to get into college and to get the scholarships that I was after. So I spent a lot of time applying for a lot of scholarships. And I said this in a previous episode, but I took the ACT test 3 times in order to get the score that I needed to get into college. So I think you're probably getting the picture. I didn't have very many friends. I worked all the time. I was just really driven. I was student class president, and I was just really motivated to be my best. When I went to college, it was the same way. I took a full class load, 16 hours, and I got a job to work 20 hours a week and needed that obviously to pay for my schooling. And then I decided to continue running, but this year I was going to train for a marathon. So I got a marathon schedule. I printed it out, and that's what I did my freshman year. I trained for a marathon that was going to be in the spring. I was living on Powerade, Power Bars, Goo Gels, and some salads. And I think that was about all I spent my money on as far as food that year. And I've mentioned this before in a podcast as well, but I was dealing with an eating disorder all through high school and through college. And it varied from how intense or serious it was and how much it affected my life. But definitely I remember training for that marathon and also eating very little. And I was always worn out then, obviously, too. I have really strong memories of doing a 10-mile training run for that marathon, and then going and saying, okay, I think I can finally, I will allow myself to have a cheeseburger. And so going to Wendy's and having a junior bacon cheeseburger and being like, this is the best food I've ever tasted in my life, because I had not had real food in so long. So I was doing a lot. I was making a lot of, meeting a lot of goals, but I was definitely really worn down. I wasn't taking care of myself. So I did the marathon. I ended up with pretty good grades my first year of college. I switched my degree from art to nutrition. Art was scary. It was hard. I felt too kind of drowned out in that crowd of other amazing artists. And so I switched to nutrition. And as I've gotten older, I've learned, okay, I was really interested in food and health and those things, but a lot of that was driven by the fact that I was wrapped up in an eating disorder, and I thought about food a lot. And so it was definitely one of my things I was most interested in. Soren and I met my husband Soren we met my freshman year. We started dating my sophomore year. We got married in my junior year. So as you know, that was great. Got married, continued my nutrition degree, and having Soren in my life definitely kind of brought to light how many migraines I was getting and how much food was part of my life and was in control of my life. And so in talking with him, I really wanted to work on my health in there. And so I had been to counseling for eating disorder before, but I wasn't really bought in. It wasn't my choice. It was more my parents suggesting, hey, try this. And so during I'd say end of my junior year, my senior year, I decided, you know what, I really do want to get help for myself. I'm so tired of this being the most important thing in my life and controlling everything I think about all day long. And so I signed myself up. I started going to counseling in a group of, I don't know what it's with a group of other recovering eating disorder friends. And so I met a couple times a week with different counselors and things, and really made a lot of progress. I was, there for the right reasons. I wanted to change. I wanted to get that out of my life. I learned that having an eating disorder was an addiction, and that I really was addicted to that being that's why it was such a huge part of my life. So through counseling, through the book Intuitive Eating, I made a lot of progress and kind of recovered. I have a picture of myself at the store with Soren. And one of the things that they had challenged me to do in eating disorder counseling was to just, with intuitive eating, you eat whatever you want, whatever sounds good, and you retrain your body to just eat whatever it needs and wants, and you kind of figure out your appetite again and things. So I remember we go to the store and we just bought like ice cream and Oreos and cereal and like anything that sounded good, because those are all things that are previously off limits or like bad foods. And so that was fun. I put on some weight. I was okay with it. Like it was a really good growing process for me. And as we finished college, we were getting ready to move to Seattle. We were in Utah for college, and so we moved to Seattle, and Soren had a job lined up. We thought, okay, this is going to be the best place. Like I love healthy food, and I love, and Soren loves the mountains. And so this is going to be a really good fit for the two of us, where we can go spend, the first few years in Seattle. And when we got, before we left, I had talked to my counselor about leaving, and she's like, I'm really worried about you going. And I don't want you to lose any of the progress that you've made. So let's try to do some preemptive measures. Think about like, how can you still be successful, not lose progress? So I remember going to the doctor for some depression medication, and I didn't really feel like I needed it. I felt like I'm great, I'm doing really well, but she wanted to kind of have that in my back pocket for when we went to Seattle. And while I was at the doctor appointment, I found out that I was pregnant. So that kind of changed what medication they could potentially give me, and or really what I wanted to choose to do about it. It was a surprise to me. I had just graduated, so I guess the timing was going to work out okay, but it really like changed my plans. And so when we were going to go to Seattle and Soren was going to start work and I was going to start a master's degree program in dietetics, I suddenly had to rework all my, okay, now what? I didn't expect to be a mom yet. So we moved to Seattle. I did not go through with my master's program. I was home while he was at work. I was trying to find a job. It was really hard, and my counselor was 100% right. I definitely was depressed. I've learned I get depressed when I'm pregnant. I get anxiety when I'm pregnant. That's one of my symptoms. I don't get morning sickness. I get anxiety, and really bad mood swings. And so I remember being in Seattle, and I think I called my counselor in Utah. If not, I journaled about it. I don't remember, but I remember feeling like so angry that I had gone through eating disorder treatment, because I felt like it had robbed away from me everything that was interesting or that I cared about. Because going through eating disorder treatment meant that food was not my obsession anymore. And I learned I was just going to eat whatever I wanted to. And so now, like, being healthy, eating healthy food, thinking about like nutrition, reading about those things, like it was all not interesting to me anymore. And so here I was in Seattle. Soren had a job. I'm sitting at home pregnant, feeling depressed, and also feeling like I have no interests. I miss school. Like, we didn't have family there either, but it was really weird time, because I felt like I had swung from the pendulum of, I care so much, this is so important to me. Food is, just a huge, huge part of what I think about. And then when you take that away, like, I didn't have anything to replace that. Not to mention I'd also had schooling taken away and those things because we had moved, but I just felt really robbed and purposeless. So I think that I've talked about in another podcast about how we started an Etsy shop, our One Little Belt shop, when we were living in Seattle. And that was the time of life that I had my first son, Easton. And then I found this idea to create baby belts for little boys, and learned that Etsy was a thing and that I could have a shop and I could sell things on there that we made. And so I started to crawl myself out of this hole by having this sense of purpose and by having this new idea and something interesting to me that was fresh, and I could build something inside myself again, which is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about women having something that they love and that they're interested in and that they have growing inside them, is because I remember vividly what it felt like to not have that, and getting that back was a lifesaver. And so, since then, of course, I have a lot of purpose and a lot of joy because of One Little Belt, because of blogging, because of Nickel and Suede, 5 kids. Like, there's a lot going on in my life now, and I do feel a lot of purpose, and that creativity back in my life is so important. So when I think about eating now, and I think about having that eating disorder, first of all, I'm really thankful that has never come back into my life again as a challenge. I rarely think about food except for, oh, that sounds good, but I forget to eat. Like, to me, have kind of gone back to the normal that I always remember being envious of like, who could forget to eat breakfast, or who could forget to think about breakfast, or who could, like, I love the fact that I just have that ability to just forget about it. Of course, I want to be healthy, but now we're kind of getting back to the beginning of this story, is to how do I get that sense of like, I want to be healthy and eating healthy back into my life? How do I get back that thing that I lost? And when I went to counseling years ago, I remember her telling me that, as a recovered eating disorder person, you will never be able to diet again. You won't be able to put yourself on that kind of a restrictive thing because it's too risky, whether you could just relapse or it's just really actually hard to get that mentality back. And I have found that to be so true. I haven't really tried dieting many times, but as we're talking about discipline, it's so hard for me to get that discipline back. And this year, as I've been thinking about it, talking to my mindset coach and trying to like scrape together some sort of discipline, like a morning schedule or something that I stick to that is consistent. We've been talking about I think a lot of us have this. I think a lot of perfectionists have this, and I think anybody who's suffered from an eating disorder has this. But and even Soren, honestly, we've talked about how he can do this too. But I have this all or nothing mentality, and that's really what I was addicted to, and still kind of am addicted to, which is why I can't. I can, but I haven't yet successfully come back to this middle pendulum. So I have this like all in on super healthy, super fit, crazy motivated, and then in order to recover from an eating disorder and in order to recover from some of that perfectionism, I had to swing back the other way. And I swing back to, don't care, not going to do it, don't ask me to, like, I'm better than a schedule or a program. I don't need one. Like, I can just doing whatever I want is really what is healthy for me. And that was totally true for a while. But I have learned that all or nothing mentality is an addiction. And when you go for all or nothing in most of things in life, what you usually get is nothing. So you say, no, I'm only going to go for all, but you usually get nothing. It's impossible to go all the time. And it doesn't really last. And so, I've thought about myself with exercising ever since running a marathon. Like, that sets you up pretty high on this is what it looks like to be fit. And this is what it looks like to be consistently healthy. And so for years I've been like, walking does not count as exercise. Running half a mile or a mile does not count as exercise. Like, I'm always like, okay, well, if you're walking, I could be running. And if I was running, I could be running faster or farther or longer, or, well, I better just get a program out again and like just train for another half marathon or something. Like, it has to be admirable and it has to be just big. It's got to be, all or nothing. Same with eating, like, okay, I'm going to go super healthy or not going to care at all. And so for the last 10 years, I've been on the nothing side where it's like, whatever I want, whenever I want, which often leaves me dehydrated, like over salted. I don't know, like I eat dessert instead of dinner. Like, surely it's going to catch up with me someday. So mentally, maybe I'm healthy, but my bones are like falling apart. So reading books the same way. I feel like if I'm going to read books, I should read like this book, or I should read this many books. And it doesn't look like a couple of pages a day. Studying scripture, like, okay, it's got to be half an hour. It can't be this much. Like, or, if I would try to do a little bit, my brain would tell me that's not enough. You should be doing more. More is better. More is better. More is better. And so, it's a hard thing to argue with your brain, because you're like, well, of course more is better. But then suddenly you're not doing anything at all because, half an hour of anything a day is really just hard to keep up. So maybe all of this is really obvious to you if you've never struggled with this, but it's been super eye-opening to me to see the places that in my life that I fall victim to the all or nothing mentality, and that's really what's holding me back from having the daily discipline in small things. And I think that's the key, is like, small things are small things, and that's what you should be proud of. That's the consistent things that I've talked about. Like, it all adds up. Just start today. Every little bit counts. Like, you'll get there eventually. And so I'm personally working on being really happy and proud of small things, because it's actually harder for me to do something in a small way than it is for me to do something in a big way. So the one success that I've had so far, and I'm really proud of it, is something really small. But I have started working out again. And not that working out is the end all be all most important thing, but it felt manageable because I found an app that a friend recommended that was a 7-minute workout app. So it's called Workout Women, and it's only 7 minutes. And they give you, it could be an abs, it could be all body, could be legs. But honestly, 7 minutes must be the magic number for me to get dressed in workout clothes, because I will go downstairs and work out for 7 minutes and feel really proud of myself. And so I've been doing that every day, probably except for Sundays, since October. So we're like 2.5 months in of me consistently doing some kind of workout. Just to give you a perspective, in September, Soren and I went to Colorado and we climbed the Manitou Incline. And that's where I met my friend that we gifted the earrings on. And that's another podcast you should listen to. But when we did that climb, it was hours and we burned a ton of calories. And my watch kept telling me, like, are you sure you're not done yet? This is probably not safe. You never exercise this much. But I burned, however many calories that day. And then when I got through the month of October, having done the 7-minute workout every day, I kind of compared the two and I was like, oh my goodness. In the month of October, I burned the same amount of calories. I don't know, probably the similar amount of time, but it was over the course of the entire month. I did something every day. Whereas in September, it was one day. I just did all of it. And I felt horrible. And then, of course, built no muscle, no anything. But because of doing consistent little workouts every day, I am actually seeing definition. I am actually feeling a little bit stronger. And sometimes I even do 2 7-minute workouts. I mean, I get crazy sometimes, and sometimes it's 14 minutes, and then I'm, might break a sweat. But I am learning for myself to be happy with that middle ground. I mean, I want to work out every day, and I want it to be a habit, and I don't want it to be something that I dread or that I stop. And so I've got to start really, really small. And so once I have that to build on, then I will add something else that I've been struggling with to do every day. And I'm going to force myself to keep it small because that's harder for me. So if you're a recovering perfectionist, or if you, can do a lot of really big things, it just takes a lot of energy, and it doesn't, build up to the bigger thing. And so I wanted to share this story and really this realization with you because this year, being 2020, being a difficult year, I do think this is when the small things matter the most. I do think that starting now and being better than you were yesterday is still applicable, and that's how we're going to continue to face challenges going forward. But we won't ever get better in those ways if we keep saying, well, tomorrow I'll do it longer, or it's not good enough if I only take the little bit of time I have today. So I just really want to encourage you and myself, I'm going to keep at it, to do the small things, start small, and be really proud of the small things, because it's the small, consistent things that are going to build to the most. And like I said, sometimes doing something in a small way is the harder thing. So yeah, don't fall for the all or nothing mentality. If you try to go for that, you usually will get nothing. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to be our best selves. So I hope this resonated with you. If you have any experience with this, or if you feel like this totally hit something with me and this all makes sense, then you're in good company. And send me a message on social media, shoot me an email, and we can commiserate a little bit together. So Hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today to With Kylie Nichols. I hope that today you felt empowered to take one more step towards living the best version of you. Tune in next week for another episode, and in the meantime, you can find us elsewhere on the internet. You can find me on Instagram at Kylie Nichols and at Nickel and Suede. You can also find us at nicolandswade.com. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.